A vampire character that works mechanically? Not quite, but I found something that comes close. Ah! So you start a brand new game and one of your players comes up to you and says, "Hey, I've got a brand new idea for a character that nobody's done before. I want to be a vampire." For an idea that nobody's done before, I've seen this happen many, many times. And unfortunately, with 5e, there are no official rules. In fact, if you went by the official rules as now in the main books, if a player character turns into a vampire, then that all of a sudden becomes a monster, which is under control of the DM and not the player. So I think the best video discussing this issue was the Web DM video. They went into a lot of information. I think that's a great watch. I'm going to link that below. However, they never dealt with the real bugbear of this situation, which is the mechanics. I've personally tried to do this in 2 separate games recently where a player wanted to be a vampire. And there was some homebrewed classes out there, and neither of one of them worked. Unfortunately, a lot of the homebrew classes like to use vampires as a class instead of a race choice, which unfortunately means that it's not going to be able to be playtested. To come up with a brand new class with level progression and stuff like that, it requires a huge amount of playtesting, which unfortunately most homebrews just don't have. If there is a really good homebrew vampire race or class that I'm not aware of, please let me know. I only ran into one that I liked, and this is from an official D&D Wizards of the Coast release, the Magic the Gathering Planeshift Zendikar. Free PDF has a vampire race in it. And it's not overpowered. It's got some very interesting traits. The vampire is not like a true vampire. There's no issues with sunlight. There's no issues with getting, crossing water or any of that stuff. You can maybe roleplay that with your characters a little bit. It's very simple, and there's some very cool stuff in there. There's only one thing which might be considered OP depending on what game you're playing, where if the player who's a Zendikar vampire kills somebody in a certain way, they can make that humanoid into a zombie. So if there's a lot of humanoids running around, your players might be able to start a zombie army, which is, the more I think about it, the more that would be really interesting to run in a game. But maybe you're different. I think that maybe you should withhold that ability until maybe like level 3 or 4. In the end, the mechanics of having a vampire as a player character are just really an issue. And keeping it super simple like this and allowing characters to play the Zendikar vampire, which doesn't necessarily, destroy their ability to play the game. Because that's the other issue with the homebrews. They make it very, very difficult for players to actually survive. Because technically, as an undead creature, a lot of the healing methods that are in the game just don't work for you. In the end, mechanics are the issue. You can kind of RP the rest. But I believe the Zendikar vampire is the handiest, easiest solution to include in your game with minimal fuss. It should fit in well with most games. Players can still be a vampire, but you don't have to worry about your game getting ruined for everybody else at the table. So everybody, with Halloween coming up, I'm actually considering doing an entire dungeon crawl based on classic monsters and whatnot as the player characters going through the dungeon. So that should be interesting. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know below. As always, if I got something horribly wrong, maybe there is an amazing homebrew vampire class out there. I looked really hard, so if there is, I just didn't find it. Please let me know about that. Thank you for watching the video. I will have more miniature stuff coming up soon. I know a lot of you people really enjoy this channel just for the miniature stuff. Don't worry, I'm going to be working on more of that stuff this coming weekend. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you later. Vampires, 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 with teeth as sharp as new barbed wire. That's a quote from my favorite author, Dalton Wilcox.